Okay. Over to you, Sonia.
Yes, I think we will give another 2 minutes for people to join in.
Mm-hmm.
So how is the weather there in Thailand, Glenn?
Well, it's pretty much the same weather year round here. So it's 30 plus hot. It's either hot and wet or hot and dry. So yeah, it's unfortunately we don't get blessed with 4 seasons. It's just year round heat. Always nice, always nice. We love Thailand weather.
Yeah. Yeah, except for I think the rains get to be a bit much, but yeah.
It's a nice change of pace, actually. You like the rains when they arrive, and by the time you're starting to get sick of it, it dries up again and goes away. So yeah,
it's sunny again.
Yes, that's right. But I do miss being able to put on some winter clothes occasionally and having that winter and spring, autumn, yeah, all those nice seasons. But can't complain because you live in Thailand, so it's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're slowly building up. People are slowly
I'm
joining.
just trying to see the number.
So over there, it's what time is it there? It's 10:30 in the morning, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So for India, you probably bumped into a few morning meetings. That's it's going to be the challenge. If you leave it any later, then you bump into lunch. So then should we do it mid-afternoon? That's why the recordings, I think, become more popular, because on demand, then anyone can watch it on recording. But it's always nice to have people participating live.
Yeah, it adds to that whole shared experience also. How many have we got? I think we'll wait till it builds up to 10 plus. I don't know why, but for some reason, all our webinars and meetings in India happen at 10:30. 9 is too early, and 12 is too close to lunchtime, which is
this is what I'm saying, that there is no true sweet spot. So it is what it is. I think people, as you do your introduction, Sonia, people will slowly start joining. I think we kick off before we use too much of our time.
Yeah, I'm just
to have a fairly full schedule.
Okay, I'm anyways going to just put up my screen so that while people join, and then I can just start.
Yes, correct.
Except that I can't see the webinar, so you need to tell me when to just stop working. I can't see the participants number, etc.
Sorry, you can't see what?
Am I audible? This mic is. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm saying just let me know. I can't see the number of participants anymore. So once you see 10 plus, I will just stop off. Let me know.
Well, I think as you move through your opening part, I mean, obviously that's not the most important way people are joining. So I think if we kick off and start your part, then we can get going into the webinar.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to start now. And now we come to the main point of our webinar. I would like to introduce you to today's panel. We will start with an introduction to Glenn. He is the Managing Director for Southeast Asia. Jackie could not be here, but she is, as everyone knows, she is the Asia Pacific President for HSMAI and also the Chair for the HSMAI Academy. We have Karishma Singh joining us from Indian Hotels Company Limited, and we have Gaurav join us from Marriott International and Presley from Cvent. So before we dive into the session, guys, I would just like you to take a note of a few housekeeping rules. When you move your slide to your full screen, you will find the QA box. Please use that for posting any questions, and we would like to take it up once the sessions are done. So over to you, Presley.
Great, thank you, Sonia. Let me quickly share my screen. And if you could just confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Some lovely. Well, a very good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out to join us for the presentation today. The topic of our discussion is the future of mice and embracing the new industry paradigm with digital marketing. My name is Presley Barreto, and I'm a senior regional sales manager for Cvent. My journey at Cvent has lasted for or continues to last for over 10.5 years now. And I've had the good fortune of managing Cvent's partnerships in different regions, right, from Europe, Asia, and more recently, I manage Cvent's partnerships in North Asia, which includes China, Japan, South Korea, and India. What we will be going through over the next 15 to 20 minutes is firstly taking a detailed look at the current landscape for India, which means we'll be seeing some sourcing trends for India over the last 24 months and what we expect in terms of RFPs and business over the next, say, year and a half. We'll also be taking a look at some planner priorities for 2022, and finally, some digital tools for mice acceleration, which center around automation. So let's actually dive into the first part of this presentation, which is about India and the sourcing trends for India. So in a recent survey for our meeting planners, 88% of the planners surveyed across India said that they are actively sourcing for events as of June 2022. That's a very good sign, but let's take a look at how that corresponds into the type of business that's being sourced across India on Cvent. So essentially, there are 3 types of RFPs. Either it's just a sleeping room RFP, meeting space and bedrooms RFPs, or just a meeting space RFP. Now, during the pandemic, we all know that we had a lot of catering RFPs come through because of social distancing norms, government regulations. We couldn't really stay at hotels with big groups. And quite frankly, a lot of people were very hesitant staying over at hotels. But this is the current breakdown of the type of RFPs that are being sourced across India. It's being dominated by the meeting space and bedroom RFPs, which is a big plus for all hotels because as opposed to the same time last year when we only had meeting space RFPs, we now have a welcome addition, which is the bedroom RFPs. The next biggest part is the meeting space only, followed by 9% of sleeping room inquiries. Now, we'll be taking a more detailed look at this pie chart, so I'm going to leave it as it is for now, and we'll be looking at a more detailed analysis a little later. But let's look at what's happening over the last 12 months in terms of RFPs, room nights, feeder markets. So in terms of RFPs, we've seen a 206% increase. Same time last year, or rather the previous term, we are seeing more RFPs come through. When you have more RFPs come through, it's mostly going to result in an increase in room nights as well. So we're seeing a 324% increase in terms of the room nights that are being sourced. It's just lovely to talk about, a lot of these green positives that you see, because for a lot of, in fact, all of us who are part of the hospitality sector, which was impacted deeply, we know that we haven't seen such numbers in a long time. So this is a big gain. It's very hearty to see these numbers. And even in terms of the value of business that's coming through in India, we saw a 232% increase with about $23.7 million sourced between August and July. Of course, the best is yet to come, and we're really looking forward to 2023. That way, we'll be able to look at 2022 and see how did the trends, end in 2022, because it's only going to get better from here. Now, some of the top feeder markets, and there's good news again, apart from Indian planners who are sourcing and who have been sourcing over the last year, we're now seeing an influx of US, UK, and Singapore meeting planners who are sourcing across India. So just to quickly summarize this slide for you, we're seeing an increase in just about every parameter that we measure a destination's performance in And the big standout for me is the international business, which is now trickling in. So let's break down a lot of these stats for you and give you a better analysis and understanding of how the trends have been like on a month-on-month basis. And as you can see from this slide, right from the month of August, where we had about 17 RFPs come through, there's been a very consistent number of RFPs that have been coming through across India. It's been hovering between the 35 to about 70 RFP mark, which shows that we haven't had any of the predicted waves at the end of 22. None of them happened. And India has marched along with a great vaccination drive. You know, it's almost everything's back to normal. Markets are open, hotels are open, restaurants are open, and people are more than willing to go out. So this is a very important, a very beautiful phase of India's recovery from the pandemic. If we were to see, which of course everybody wants to know more about, is where are the planners sourcing from, then the chart that you see on the left is the current breakdown for you. Same time last year, we also have a similar chart broken down for you. These are, of course, Jan to July. And you can see that India, which was, of course, dominating the sourcing because the markets were closed, and the only option we had was to drive our meeting planners to source domestically. That had worked very well at that time. But now, as you can see, a lot of the international meeting planners that we've partnered with for many years have now started sourcing. So you're seeing an increase from the United States. There's an increase from the UK. The rest of the world and Europe, and not Europe, but most of the other Western regions have started sourcing extensively. And this is great news because India has been open for a very long time in terms of its borders. I feel there are, of course, two sections of meeting planners, the ones who are sourcing for the immediate future and some who are a little conservative. And we'll be talking about them in a bit, who are sourcing for the distant future. Either ways, both of them are welcome because we need the business, and either we need it now or we need it in the future. It's going to help our hotels do better. So if you look at it from a meeting size perspective, and here, this is a really interesting slide for me when we were constructing the slide. What comes to mind, of course, is the blue bars, which are for 2022, are outdoing the green bars. What we're seeing on this slide is the size of an RFP, that is the number of attendees per RFP. And you can see here, for 1 to 25 people, we are already outdoing this section of RFPs as compared to last year. In fact, if you shift your focus from left to right, you can see that there's the blue bars are outdoing the green bars in just about every section or group size. And that's good news because now we're going to have more RFPs trickling in. They're going to be, of course, of different size of RFPs or denominations. But that also means that there's going to be more business for just about every type of hotel in India, whether if it's a luxury hotel, semi-luxury, mid-scale. We're going to have a lot of RFPs come through, and that means there's going to be business just about every hotel that's out there. Moving on to the volume of business. Let's take a look at, of course, from the three different types of RFPs, the section of RFPs which actually comes with the highest revenue. And there are no surprises. It's going to be the meeting space and bedrooms, of course. But this is an interesting breakdown for you because, as you can see on the current pie chart, you're also seeing the meeting space retaining the value of business that was sourced the same time last year. So all in all, the type of RFPs is, of course, increasing. And the value of business is also increasing this year as compared to last year. Now, we've taken a look at what happened with India over the last 12 months. It's also very important to take a look at the future and what is it that India presents to hoteliers in the country on Cvent. Now, as I mentioned, there are two types of planners. Of course, there are ones who are taking a lot of positives out of the sourcing numbers. They're very happy to see what's happening. They're seeing the borders open and they're more than happy to start sourcing immediately. Whereas there is a second segment of meeting planners who are a little conservative. We're still keeping an eye out on the market conditions and maybe we'll start sourcing in the near future. So in the quarter that we are in, which is Q3, we already have $9.8 million worth of business. And that again is nearly duplicated in Q4, which is right around the corner in October, November, and December. And we have $6.7 million worth of business that's already been sourced to hotels. As we get into 2023, there is a slight dip that we're seeing there. But as you can see from the trend here, it's more like meeting planners are sourcing for the immediate future rather than the distant future. I think as we get closer to Q1 and Q2 and even Q3 of next year, we'll start seeing more of these meeting planners send in their RFPs. And I think one of the reasons for that is with the market conditions being as dynamic as they are, and if we look at the feeder markets where the business is coming from, it's from a lot of international destinations. So it seems more like a lot of the meeting planners from international destinations want to keep a close eye on the market conditions. And when they're a little bit more closer to the date of their events, they're a little bit more certain of the markets, especially because they keep changing so often. We're going to have more RFPs come through for 2023 as we get closer to these quarters. That seems more like a trend that we're noticing in India. But overall, we're seeing some big numbers. It's close to about $15.5 million that's already been sourced by our meeting planners for the end of 2022 to 2023. Which brings us to the most important slide, the slide that a lot of hoteliers I speak to want to know more about. And clearly, you can see a trend here as well with the blue bars 2020 compared to the green bars 2021 and 2022. And for the first half of the year, you can see that there is a very consistent ADR that is being proposed by hoteliers in Cvent. It's a lot higher than the previous years, which is a big plus, and it is consistently there. Now, if you look at the conversion for for India on Cvent, it's relatively high. It's about 30%, which means that all of these, or 30% of the RFPs that are being confirmed have a confirmed ADR of $206. Which brings us to an end to the first part of the Cvent presentation. We will now be hearing what the meeting planners have to say about sourcing in 2022. So, sorry about that. Now, as you can see, 92% of the planners across Asia are going to be sourcing for in-person events. Now, that is a big plus for us because the segment of meeting planners that we surveyed are meeting planners who are based out of Asia. We chose 250 of these meeting planners, and that means 91% of that is roughly about 225 meeting planners and over who are already sourcing for in-person events. So this shows that all meeting planners in Asia share the common opinion that things are a little better, not are a little, but are much better, or are much, I would say, are more, I'm not getting the word, but it's just a lot better for sourcing MICE inquiries and conducting MICE inquiries this year, which is a general consensus and an opinion that all meeting planners share. Now, if you want to know who are these meeting planners, these were meeting planners who are responsible for their sourcing. We reached out to directors and managers in certain companies. So this is coming straight from the horse's mouth. That in person is definitely going to be the type of events that they will be sourcing in 2022 and beyond. Now, the India MICE recovery is also at par with the Asia MICE recovery. I think the Asian meeting planners are looking at sourcing at about 91, whereas Indian meeting planners are sourcing about 88% in 2022. Now, the top feeder markets for India, we've shown you this before, it's UK, Singapore, USA, and India. The regions, of course, within Asia, if you want to take a look at that as well, it is primarily Singapore, India, and Thailand, and there are no surprises because these regions have been open for a significant period of time. So since they're receiving a lot of inbound business, there will be outbound business as well, and India is the chief receiver from these regions. Now, what event format will you run the most in 2022? Now, this is a very important question because we all know that for a sufficient period of time, a lot of meeting planners and organizations were leveraging the virtual aspect of an event. Of course, it was resulting in a more amplified effect for planners that were reaching out to a larger audience. But what's the future? How are these events going to be conducted? And as you can see, there is a percentage of meeting planners, as 38.2% of planners who suggest that it's going to be in person, whereas there is an equal number of meeting planners who suggest that it's going to be the hybrid. And I'm not surprised with that because I think the way forward for some planners, and depends on region to region really, hybrid could be a model that could be employed depending on how stringent the measures are and how the current COVID or the pandemic impact is in a region. So maybe a country like Japan, Hong Kong could start off on a hybrid model. Moving on, which type of events are currently planning to run in 2022? And as you can see, with China, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, and India, it's a lot of the hybrids and in-persons which are dominating. You do have a part of planners who are saying that they're going to go virtual as well, but I think it's going, at the end of the day, it's going to be each to his own. As I mentioned, dependent on the region, dependent on the market conditions, government regulations. I think each of these type of events would be leveraged in a region. Now, what planners expect are more tech-enabled events. So they want hotels to be a little bit more equipped with technology, with AV, with better AV. And that doesn't come as a surprise. If you see these two questions, what if anything is more important to you when you research a hotel or venue online during your sourcing process? Well, it's virtual site tours, because not a lot of meeting planners now would want to visit a hotel physically, especially when it comes to international business. Meeting planners would want to sit within the confines of their offices and their homes and see what the hotel is all about. So I think having a virtual tour is something which is vital for any hotel. Interactive event space diagrams where meeting planners can interact with the meeting space, and it's allowing the meeting planner to understand what the meeting space is all about, rather than having floor plans, which does not give an exact description of what the event is going to look like if the meeting planner is to confirm the business with the hotel. So having something which allows the meeting planner to see what his event is going to look like in the actual meeting space is something that a lot of hotels are transitioning to, a lot of meeting planners are transitioning to, which simply means there's going to be a digital canvas on which you can draw out your event space and the event itself. Photos and videos, side-by-side venue comparison, reviews, these are things that have been a part of the hospitality sector for a bit. Moving on to the next question, what are your biggest challenges in 2022 regarding your event program? So of course, some of these we're all aware of. They probably are going to be with us in the near future as well, like new COVID-19 variants. We know that there are going to be a few coming through in different regions. We have to be prepared for that. Health and safety on site. I think a lot of hotels are now very well prepared with this. Masks are on, sanitization stands are still available, doctors on site, things like that are what hotels are having readily available to ensure that, they can assist their the attendees, travel restrictions, negotiating flexible contracts, understaffed venues is I think that's something which is which we all know is a challenge with our industry. We'll talk a little bit more about that during the presentation. But essentially, these are the biggest challenges that a lot of planners feel can hinder the progress that we're making with recovering from the pandemic. So just to quickly summarize, I think what a lot of meeting planners want from hotels is they want the hotels to be more agile, to be thinking out of the box, to be providing them with solutions, because the environment in which they're currently working and they're sourcing events is very dynamic. So things change overnight. And if that is the case, and you have a group coming to your hotel, they would prefer to have hotels that are able to provide solutions in this dynamic environment. So thinking out of the box, being agile, and of course, trying to do more with each event. The things that work pre-pandemic might not be the same things that will work successfully post-pandemic. So having more technology for your meeting planners to avail of, helping them amplify the impact of their events, maybe having something like a venue attendee hub, which allows you to cater to the needs of virtual events, is what the meeting planners have expectations moving forward. So I think these are some key insights. We do have a full planner sourcing report. In lieu of time, we're not able to share that with you today. But if you want a full planner sourcing report, then just drop us your email in the chat box, and my team will reach out and share the planner sourcing report with you. But some key insights on this report. And now moving on to the last part, which is the digital tools for MICE acceleration. So how do you accelerate your growth in this digital world? As you know, we are embracing digitalization. The hospitality industry is now getting more and more digital, which means that we have an opportunity to automate a lot of the processes. It's time for us to make certain manual processes redundant and make things more available to the customers. And if you look around you, and it's not just the banking industry that you see where you're now able to have access to bank statements. You don't have to go to a physical bank to drop in a check to do a balance transfer. You can do that online. If you look at any industry, your groceries are sent straight at home. You don't have to go to a market, say, and go to a shop. So you're saving a lot of time, and things are getting more and more efficient. And that's something that needs to come into our hospitality industry as well, where we're making things more available to the customers. We're empowering the customers with more things that they can do on their own, and removing all of these mundane tasks, which have been a part of our hospitality sector for a very long time. It's time that we start looking into these, because a lot of the hotel processes that we feel, and we've used the last 2 years to analyze hotel operations, a lot of these can now be streamlined and made more efficient with the help of technology. So Cvent has a barrage of these technology softwares. If you're interested in knowing more about how you can streamline your hotel operations, then please do reach out to us, and we can definitely share more with you on that. But before we do that, I think it's very important to understand, why do hotels need automation more than ever? Well, firstly, I think from a perspective of efficiency, I think it's going to save everybody a lot of time. It's going to make things a lot more better, not only for hotels, but for our customers. Also, we have to do more with less. We know that we are short-staffed, so at this point of time, every staff has to be sharing more responsibilities. So some of these responsibilities that they haven't to do maybe can be shifted away from them, because you can automate them, and that will give them more time to focus on their actual core job. And of course, profits matter. If you can remove certain processes, and that helps you increase profits, like maybe room block management, room upsells, which generate additional revenue. That is something that you should definitely employ, right? Because it's all about making money now. We've lost some ground in the last 2 years, and this is a great opportunity while business is back to increase profits. Which brings us to the last part, which is how can we do more with less? Well, firstly, you maximizing your exposure. It is vital because it's important for you to keep your profiles up to date and promote your venues with safe meeting capabilities. With regards to increasing efficiency, you let technology streamline, things for you, so you're automatically getting more efficient. And automate sales, marketing, and operations for your MICE business. So that is, again, a very important part of what hotels need to look into in driving revenue, as I mentioned, through upsell opportunities, room blocks, and dashboards, which is critical as you measure your hotel's performance versus your competitors. Measuring your hotel's performance as compared to the market. Where do you stand and what you can do better to gain more market share? So that is, again, another part of what hotels can look into as they're automating their processes, which brings us to the supplier and venue solutions.
Presley, how many more slides? We are actually running out of time.
We have just 2 more slides. Well, actually, this is the second last slide.
Can we just, quickly?
Sure. I'm just gonna
thank you.
close it out really quickly. So we've got the 4 pillars of our venue solutions, which include MICE sales, which is more towards advertising and how you can drive more leads with greater presence. Followed by the operations aspect, where you can streamline your hotel operations with room block management, etc. We do have transient, which is mainly to do around how you can drive transient leads to your hotel. And I'm sorry, I mixed up the MICE sales and MICE marketing. I'm sorry, MICE marketing is more to do with visibility, and MICE sales is how you can optimize your sales leads. Key takeaways, quickly, new sourcing priorities. So please keep that in mind, what our planners thinking of. Agility, you need to be thinking out of the box to keep the planners engrossed, and efficiency through automation is going to be key as we move forward into 2023 and beyond. Thank you very much, and hope you had some takeaways from this presentation. Over to you, Carl. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sonia, actually, I see one of our attendees has their hands up. Is that a question? You're on mute, Sonia.
Okay, so as I said, they can type in the questions in Q&A. There's a box Q&A, and if you can just start with your presentation, Gaurav, because we are really running out of time.
Yes, sure. And if you can confirm to me that it's now on presentation mode.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, awesome. Firstly, thank you, HSMAI, Sonia, Glenn, for inviting us for this session. Really happy to be a part of it. Also, thanks to the fellow speakers, Presley, Karishma, for sparing time. We know there's a lot happening in our lives, but thanks. And to the live audience who is also there on the call. A few of you might listen to this on a recorded version, so thank you for even listening to it on the recorded space. So firstly, the last 24, 28 months has been tough for us as hoteliers. Thank you for believing in the industry and staying strong. It's been high on EQ. It's been really, really tough, right? So but the good part is that our industry is back and it's going to become bigger and stronger. So Thank you for sticking along. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my strengths. So my name is Gaurav Agarwal. I'm part of the national sales team at the Marriott. And I represent the hotels in South Asia. So we've got 120 hotels in India, across 34 cities and 16 brands. And in Asia Pacific, excluding China, we're roughly 480 odd hotels across 20 countries and 21 brands. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about trends from a sales and distribution perspective. We had Presley talk about tech and sourcing, and we also have another speaker who's going to be talking from finance and revenue perspective. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Continuing to keep customer in the center. There are the three pillars, the four big pillars actually that we work on: brand or marketing content, however you call it, people, performance, and process. So I'm going to talk about a little bit. We're running short with time, so I'm going to try and move as quickly as possible. So what you see up on the screen are things what the customer is looking at and how the new way of business is happening. But to kind of help the customer, there is a lot of work being done by the brand team. Now, over the pandemic, we realized there was a need to change our focus. There was a lot of focus on leisure. Then it moved to bleisure, which was a combination of business and leisure, where there were a couple of days of business extended with leisure. Staycations became a big deal. I think, I don't know how many webinars we've attended on staycation and how it has to be drivable locations and things like that. But even, just listening to our customer, where they said, I'm attending so many webinars and I just want to switch off. Us hoteliers had to change the game and say, how can we help you feel rejuvenated, refreshed, when you're out on this business trip in hotel? So we had to make them feel safe. Again, lots of sessions on what all is happening in terms of safety at hotels, and kudos to the industry where everybody came together and said, we have to take care of our associates and also of our customers. So there was a lot of expense happening there. And then going with the brand, there were initiatives that happened from a Marriott perspective. We looked a lot upon drivable locations, staycations. We launched Diwali with Marriott, which was a thing during the festivities about how we can send goodies and sweets to our families and customers. A lot happening there. But along with this, there was the Great Resignation, right? We are still in that period of the Great Resignation. A lot of people from the industry wanted to quit, or their positions were eliminated. And hence I said, thank you for sticking along in the industry, because it's been high on EQ. So as Marriott as a company, our focus had been to retain, train, and empower our associates, right? We had to focus on training. We had to allow people to speak their minds, because there was just a lot happening. And that's, I'm not saying this is a trend, but as a company, and what we want to do for the future is to ensure our talent stays with us and grows with us, right? So there's a lot of cross training, a lot of exposure, which helps in retaining talent. But train, 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 that's the big mantra. And I request all of you to focus on that. Even if you want to do something for your personal development, there's some great tools available online. So emphasize on training. The next was on people. I spoke about people, and then process and performance. Performance has been great. Just in terms of MICE, we are well above 2019 levels, to be 12% above. The business of MICE actually never went away. It's just the way the segments changed. So if you remember, during the pandemic, there was a lot of repatriation business, shipping business, sports business. Everything was in a bio bubble. Customers were buying a little differently. There were weddings that continued to happen. Social events continued to happen. There was the Indian defense business. So all of that was staying with the hotels, and that trend continues, right? MICE business is back. customers want to be with their employees or with their dealers or customers, and they want to celebrate their successes. So that's going to continue. What we've seen from our trends is currently the international travel load is still at 52%. So just imagine the number of people who want to come into the country but are not able to because of connectivity. So MICE is here to stay. We're well above 2019 levels. And it's just the way the business is moving. So in metros, it's a lot about conferencing again, the large, big scale exhibitions or association meets, they are being discussed. So while Presley mentioned slides for 23 at Marriott, because we are popular with our MICE hotels, we are already seeing business being discussed at for 23 or even 24. Where people want to lock in their business, they want to try out a new destination or a new venue. Fortunately, with the distribution and scale with Marriott, we're able to capture that share. And then, repeat business where they couldn't do it in 21 or in the early half of 2020. They want to rebook their events for 2023. So the infrastructure is available. There's confidence in the customer. Hopefully everything stays well, no global recession, a number of COVID cases remain under check, and we should be good to go. But thank you again for listening to me, and thank you, Sonia and Glenn, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Gaurav. Karishma?
Hi, Sonia. Hi, everyone. So I'll go next. I know we're kind of reaching the end of the session, so I'll be really quick and brief. Do let me know if my screen is visible.
Good. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, do you mind if I interrupt for a moment? Please don't race through it. Please don't race through.
Okay.
I mean, I'd really like to see it myself as well. So,
All right.
I think, most people that are dialed in can if they can't hang on, they can see the replay later, but I think we should see the content. I think it's important.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Glenn. Thank you so much for that. So hello, everyone. I'm Karishma Singh. I'm the Area Director for Finance and Revenue Management for the North area at Indian Hotels. Incidentally, my role is something that came out of the pandemic. So it's a hybrid role spanning two functions, and I'm loving it. I haven't stopped, since I hit the ground running in October 2020. It's been a most fabulous, fascinating journey. And before I start, I just want to call out that we were very fortunate, as Gaurav was saying, to sort of last out this last couple of years. And at IHCL, we emerged really super strong at the end of it. We were awarded the dual honor of being the world's strongest hotel brand as well as India's strongest hotel brand. So a big resounding thank you to all our customers, stakeholders, our team members, our employees, over 28,000 spanning over 10 locations worldwide. And of course, before I start, I just want to talk a little bit about our CEO's vision. So we are looking to become 300 properties by 2025 with an EBITDA margin of 33%, zero net debt, and a 50-50 owner to management ratio. So very ambitious plan, and riding on the back of the resounding success of travel that's come back to us. So moving on to the topic at hand, sourcing trends on the future of MICE. I've just got here a quick snapshot to sort of, show to you the big picture. Where do we stand as India versus the world in terms of the MICE segment? In 18-19, our contribution was 0.96%. I think there's been a little bit of a data gap since then, because the MICE sort of just, as Gaurav was saying, went to virtual, etc. So we don't have too much data on India right now. But the global stats do tell us that by 2028, the MICE business is going to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 21.3% annually, and is estimated to reach $1,337.4 billion. That's really, really big. And out of the MICE, it's the MIC, which is Meeting, Incentive, and Convention, that's really going to drive all the action. As far as India goes, we are currently ranked 28 in the MICE destinations of the world. So I think that's a fabulous place to be. And with the reopening of convention centers like Pragati Maidan in New Delhi, and a lot more coming up, I think we're going to see some very exciting times in the future of MICE in India. So some of the key trends that we're seeing in the brave new world of MICE. Of course, Presley did touch upon this. So hybrid events is big, it's here to stay. We've seen the statistics. I think I'll just add that, you know, apart from hybrid, there's also the metaverse that a lot of people are experimenting with. So that's also here to stay. And technology is the key here. So the hotel chains that have the best of technology are actually going to get the best of the hybrid MICE that's coming in. Then I'll just touch upon Generation C. So all of us as hoteliers have reinvented our operational paradigm. It's all focused on health, safety, cleanliness, hygiene. And of course, that's a key point for the planners that are sourcing MICE business. A hotel chain that's got its hygiene act together is definitely going to get more of the MICE business than the others. We're also seeing a trend towards local travel. So as we saw in Presley's pie charts, there's a lot of India sourcing India. So instead of people looking at outbound, there's a lot of inbound that we're seeing. And actually, the fuel of the MICE business that we've seen in the last 6 to 7 months is primarily being driven by the Indian market. So I would just say in a nutshell that Indians have sort of rediscovered India. The recovery, and this I'm talking more as an industry, is at 70 to 80% of 1920 levels. We still do have some city hotels that are still to catch up onto 1920. And that's primarily because there's just one piece that's missing, is that the international markets haven't yet bounced back to the levels of 1920 in terms of India inbound. We're also seeing some interesting trends in the food and beverage space. So there are newer formats from buffets, for example. We've got things like smartly plated meals, bento boxes, self-service coffee machines, meeting planners insisting that all the F&B associates are double vaccinated, they've got their booster dose. And of course, for the hybrid meeting format, we do have situations where, the meeting planner is saying, okay, do you know what, can we have food delivered to these speakers who are going to be attending the conference online? So that's been an interesting development in the F&B space. And of course, digital and AI, Presley sort of already touched a lot on it. But what I will add is that event planner platforms, and of course, Cvent being a primary one, is gaining a lot of momentum. So the hotels that really, want to get on this MICE growth path, they need to be on the right event planner platforms. We're also seeing OTA sites moving into booking event venues. So that's a new development, and that's going to be a new emerging trend. I'll just take a few minutes to touch upon sustainability. So I think with the pandemic and with global climate change and with the ESG becoming so dominant worldwide, we as hoteliers, we as MICE planners have also become very, very conscious about reducing the carbon footprint. In India, for example, we banned single-use plastic since the month of July. And this is just one of many micro steps forward. But I think the consciousness in terms of, events being carbon neutral, green meetings, carbon emission calculations, and offsetting actions, that's big and that's here to stay. From a revenue management perspective, which is my favorite subject, so I've just put some key trends that we're actually seeing in terms of lead time, length of stay, and average daily rates. So what we're seeing in the Indian market in terms of lead times is that if I look at the domestic market, I'll focus on the bottom half of the graph. Pre-pandemic, which is the light blue graph, we were seeing domestic business coming to us in a span of 0 to 3 months on the outer side. However, after the pandemic, the domestic business lead time has crashed a lot. We are looking at domestic business coming in, a lot of it coming in the month, for the month, a lot of it coming 2 weeks out, 10 days out. So meetings are getting planned at very, very short notice. And on the international side, the trend is a little bit reverse. And that's primarily because of the kind of restrictions that are still there on travel with, visas. There's a big backlog. Airports are super crowded. So international MICE is coming with a much longer lead time than what it was in 2019, both if I look at the min and the max. So we are seeing, for example, international queries coming to us in Q4. And of course, the biggest and the best example for India is the G20, which is going to be hitting us starting from December 2022 and going on up until December 2023. We're already seeing the build up to G20 in some of the big markets, with of course Delhi being the host venue, so the maximum impact coming in there. In terms of length of stay, we are seeing that the length of stay is actually increased on an average. And that's because people are taking that extra effort to get in a day prior or stay on a day extra. There's also this trend of leisure, so combining business with leisure. So if people are coming in for a meeting, they're taking out that extra day to visit the destination, to take out some time in the destination because we don't know when they will come back. So we've seen the length of stay go up. And of course, average daily rate, as Presley also said, Cvent seeing that $200 plus ADR. We're seeing that as well, with the resorts leading the ADR piece, and then of course the city hotels as well. In terms of some of the other interesting trends that we're seeing, booking. So we've got self-booking tools coming in a big way. We were really trying as a revenue management as well as a hotel sales and marketing community to push this with customers, but thanks to the pandemic, the adoption of this is much, much more. In terms of flexibility and paying advances, so meeting planners have become a lot more demanding on this front. They don't want to pay the advances, the way we used to time it in the earlier times. It's coming more closer to the date of the event, as well as there's a lot of back and forth going on in terms of flexibility towards cancellations, towards rescheduling, a lot of questions getting asked that, suppose someone catches COVID while transiting or during the conference, what happens, what will you do? So there are a lot of interesting discussions happening in our community around that. And of course, the winners will be those chains that are, got their act together there and are able to give a very clear direction on all of these parameters to customers. And I think another really interesting thing that's happening is that in the good old days when we had a MICE block, as a revenue management community, we would black out those dates, we would start yielding up. But in today's time, we have to be a little bit more agile. So we may have got a 100-room block, but honestly, what's going to be the materialization is something that's going to happen only closer to the date. So sales and revenue have to work even more hand in hand nowadays than they ever did before, because the person who is talking to the customer needs to relate it back to the back end and say, you know what, out of 100, it's only 80 coming. So I need to open up my balance 20 rooms for sale. And similarly, I need to have my plan B ready at all times. So some key takeaways I would say from today is that hoteliers need to invest more in virtual sales tools, same that Presley also spoke about. A self-booking tool and flexible cancellation, very, very important. MICE venues should be very, very tech-enabled to allow hybrid and metaverse sort of formats to happen. I would also touch upon this concept of bionic revenue management, because just before we got on the live webinar, we were actually talking that, are we still using 2019 as the benchmark? Truth is that today we have to build the benchmark as we go along. So in the good old days of revenue management, we used to look at same time last year, we would compare with, how was November 2018 versus 2017 to play November 2019, but that's not the case anymore. So what we need to do is really to have a bionic revenue management approach. Use our past data, use our system intelligence, use our pickup reports, but nothing will replace our own agility and human intelligence that's going to happen on the day, for the day, within the month. So that would be the way to maximize yields till we get to a new trend of business overall, whether it's MICE, whether it's transient, etc. Pricing, of course, very, very important. So we've seen the growth in the ADR. So customers are willing to pay that extra for better hygiene, better sanitization, better safety at the hotels. And as hoteliers, I would say as revenue management experts, we would also need to factor in the displacement of FIT business, leisure in the case of resorts and corporates in the case of city hotels when we're doing the pricing for the MICE business. And I would say another good opportunity, a super opportunity that actually come our way is growing the ancillary revenue streams from the MICE business that's coming to us. So this is a really good opportunity to, promote those airport pickups using your safety sanitization tactics, looking at in-room breakfast, because a lot of customers are still not comfortable with a buffet breakfast, providing laundry, and also looking at virtual event catering. So I think there's a big opportunity there that's opened up. And with that, I would say thank you so much for your time. And that's what I have to say. So back to you, Sonia, for any Q&A. Thank you so much, Glenn.
Yeah. Thank you, Karishma. Thank you for a very insightful presentation. Thank you, Gaurav, and thank you, Presley. And we will be happy to take any questions if the audience has any. I don't see any in the Q&A section.
I have a question.
Yes.
Karishma's last slide, I thought was, I was just about to say maybe we should leave it on the screen during a discussion, but I think that just summed it up for. Obviously, I'm not as closely related to this field, but in terms of that last slide, the key takeaways, I think if it should be a 101 best practice almost, it's, the bionic revenue management, love that. But also the virtual sales tools and then the ancillary revenues. Really, it's, if you're following those kind of 9 boxes that were there, I think that is almost like a best practice when it comes to the new MICE, so to speak. So one of the questions I had was that additional leisure revenue that seems to be going across the regions. Other discussions we've had include this, this new type of MICE traveler that is bolting on 2 to 3 to 4 extra days whilst they're away because they can work hybrid. So they tend to sort of, if they're going to a location, do you think that will become more and more a sort of a feature of, as MICE groups book, is how do you connect with that one delegate to then start a relationship selling ancillary benefits or services as well as extra additional room nights and so forth?
Yeah, I think, Glenn, I think that's here to stay because people are realizing that the value of travel is much more than ever before after being sort of cooped up at home for 2 years or wherever they've been. And definitely people want to go out, see the world, experience the place. It's all about the local experiences. It's no longer just about sitting in a room and making presentations and listening. It's about living the moment, if I may put it like that. And that can only happen if we're able to give those authentic local experiences built into the MICE proposition from our side.
Yeah, that's true. And that was very reflective yesterday, Mikhail from Rosewoods, in terms of Hong Kong and Asian business. It was the same. It was about the ability to create this kind of very memorable MICE event that's not just a straightforward sit in a room and watch a couple of presentations. It might be utilizing different spaces in the hotel that before weren't considered like MICE venues, but are now being seen as a way to kind of add originality to the event.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, I just have one quick question before we wind up. So, and this goes for any 3 of you. So, what makes a hotel good, to be considered good for MICE? What are the things hotels need to highlight from there and to to these event planners or to the organizers to be considered to be in the running? What has, of course, the normal things that we used to do before the pandemic, but what is it that they need to highlight in today's time?
I would say refer to my last slide.
All of those.
I would say that too.
Yeah.
She's already covered in that last takeaway slide. I even took a photo of it. I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn. Want to know more about MICE? Follow these 9 boxes.
No, but Sonia, just to answer that, I think it's really about being very, very connected with the customer, understanding their needs and having that customized approach, because now it's so much more complex than just a group of people coming, staying and using the banqueting facility. It is about technology. It is about giving them flexibility. It is about their meal experience. It is about the hygiene that we provide. And of course, the interesting experiences that we can build around a conference or an event to make it truly, truly memorable. So, things like giveaways and having a little package around that. I think that's what's really going to make a hotel stand out in a MICE panel.
Yeah, and I guess using technology to highlight the experiences that they can gain actually. That also sounds, yeah. All right.
Can I just ask one more question? One of the things that came out yesterday in the Hong Kong region was the proposal structure now is you need to put your best foot forward on proposal number one, so to speak. I'm not sure if you remember that from yesterday, Sonia, but it was a really interesting thing that sort of gone as the days of seems to be the haggle and then come back with
the renegotiations are no longer, I think, the call of the day.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a case of, Mikhail was saying, it wasn't a case of supply and demand, like, everyone wants the business, so the shoppers, the MICE bookers are more demanding. It's more a case of just a change in mindset since COVID. And I don't know, it's a change in mindset. It's like, I would like a proposal off you, and I'd like it to be, the proposal that you want to give, as opposed to the first one, then the second one and third, etc. Is that the case in India as well?
So you're asking if there are multi-negotiations still going on?
Yes, correct. In India, or is it more?
I mean, I think Karishma and Gaurav can tell us that.
I'm happy to take this on.
Go on.
It actually just varies. It depends upon the type of query which is being discussed. Because a corporate / association negotiations are much lower than a wedding, because while the Indian wedding business went for a small diet, they're back, and they
it's still the big fat wedding.
And they're back and they want to do it big, and those are a little more personalized discussions, and because it's not just about closing the venue, it's really about, am I feeling at home when I'm talking to the head chef and the general manager? And that's how a decision for a wedding is being made, that because I'm going to be bringing in so many people, so am I confident? That's the
experience.
So it depends upon the type of business, but yeah.
Right. Okay. So it depends on the type. I see.
But it's India, Glenn, the negotiations will happen.
Yeah, mate, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, I was wondering if
they will happen.
Yes, maybe it's
till they check in, they will happen.
We love negotiating.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'd be nice if we had a few, 10 more minutes to keep the Q&A open, but I am conscious we're over time, Sonia, but maybe, in a month or two, we can all convene again on another webinar, because I think India is sounding like it's really buoyant, and it sounds like an interesting market. I think Asia has different challenges, and I wanted to talk about whether India has seen the impact of the China phenomenon, of the Chinese not, that market sort of disappearing from the planet. So certainly Southeast Asia and North Asia have felt that, but I wanted to ask whether India had felt that that gap in terms of the Chinese mass market.
So I'm happy to take this on, and interestingly, I was on an Asia Pacific call yesterday, and it was amazing to know that India is currently leading the charts for recovery to 2019 in this region, but closely followed by Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacifics. The growth the story has been great. I think across brands, there has been new hotels that have come in over the last 24 months. We're seeing Korea almost there, Japan almost there. Even with the Korea issue in May and June, the recovery has been so strong. China is still the concern, but we recently opened up the Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia region, and it's booming without the Chinese traveler yet.
Wow.
So we can't even imagine what 2023 will look like. So we're seeing, out of the 21 countries we operate in this region, excluding China, 11 of them are going to be substantially above 2019 levels. So it's not just a Marriott thing. It sounds like it's a industry thing across brands, and obviously the standalones and the Airbnbs continue to do well on the longer weekends and things like that. So.
Yeah,
So
just to add to that, Glenn, I think with the pandemic, we discussed this yesterday, the reset button has been pressed. So what that is doing is it's giving a lot of tier 3 markets, a lot of tier 4 markets in, Japan and South Korea, where probably we weren't seeing any mice and we weren't even speaking to them. You're seeing a lot of them get a lot of interest from planners. So yes, I think China is, of course, going through the pandemic. So there's been a shutdown from their end, but that's also resulting in a lot of new planners coming up and a lot of new regions that are now being prospected for business. So it's good for everybody. And that just means that with that reset button press, now everybody has an opportunity to go after that business. Like it's a fresh piece of business, Of course, your past relationship will always matter, but I think it's always, it's a good opportunity to start getting in some NBB for different regions.
Wow, so it sounds like a case of brace yourself, because 2023 is sounding pretty, looking pretty positive. Touching wood that kind of crazy thing happens to us.
The year of the traveler comes on.
Yeah.
But we'll find out more about China tomorrow in tomorrow's webinar. So
yes.
So stay tuned. And on this note, if nobody has anything further, we will wind up. Thank you everyone for your time. And thank you to the speakers for some really great sharing and insights. And thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Glenn.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.